Okay, so your life feels like a mess right now. Maybe you've recently had a baby. Maybe a loved one is sick. Maybe something else happened. Maybe it's an accumulation of things, and you just feel like life is so messy and chaotic right now and so stressful, and you don't know how to continue working on your business. You think, okay, maybe I should stop. Maybe I should put it on hold. Maybe I should think about it later when life gets better. Or maybe you're defaulting to the exact opposite of, you know what, I'm just going to push through, I'm going to make it work, I'm going to continue working at the same rate, I'm going to fight through this. Whatever it is, I want you to take a moment to first of all stop and accept that your life has changed. Accept that things have changed, whether they've changed temporarily or they've changed permanently, or it's going to be like this for a while, or you don't know how long it's going to be like this. Accept that, because that is the first step. I'm going to share with you a practice that's going to help you stay consistent with building your business and growing it despite everything that's going on in your life, and to keep creating from a place of joy and a place of expansion rather than feeling like you have to do things, because the last thing you need is one more obligation on top of everything that's going on right now. So, first things first, know that building a business is like having a baby. It's a lot easier to have a baby or to build a business when your life feels smooth, when you are taken care of. That's not always the case, right? It's not always a given that you're going to be in a good mental, physical, emotional, and financial state. However, you can create some of that with more intention. And the first thing is your baseline. That is your body. Make sure that you have the same sleep time, wake up time, meal time. Create some routine, some rhythm in your life that's going to help calm your nervous system down. That is the first step to feel safer. No matter what's going on in your life, it is important that you take care of your health, your mental, physical, emotional health first. And health, really, in all areas in your life right now, is so crucial, because you don't want to try to keep pushing through, keep creating, keep building while you are depleted. So, your baseline. The next thing is get rid of your freaking screen, at least the first hour after you wake up and the last hour before you go to bed. You need some mental space. You need some space where stuff is not coming in, where you're not consuming things. It's so easy to want to distract yourself by scrolling your phone or working or doing anything really to try to numb the pain or try to numb the fear, the feelings that are coming up. But it's important that you create that spaciousness in the last hour before going to bed. Helps you sort through things so you can have better sleep. And the first hour after you wake up is important to create that space, because you need that to reconnect to yourself. So that brings me to the first thing to do when you wake up. I'm not here to tell you how to have a morning or what exact morning routine you have to follow. That's not my style, but I will give you some pointers. So we said no screen the first hour after you wake up. Now, what do you do with that first hour? You take some time for yourself. That means even 5 minutes of silence and deep breathing. If you meditate, that's great. If you don't meditate, that's okay. Because mindfulness is about so much more than a sitting position and closing your eyes. It's about being present, it's about being mindful. So even if you take 5 minutes of silence and deep breathing, that's going to help create a separation where you're not repeating the same patterns from yesterday. We are all pre programmed in some ways, and creating that separation will help you decide with intention, who do I want to be today, rather than rehearsing or repeating the same patterns from yesterday. So take 5 minutes in the morning, 5 to 15 minutes of quiet solitude. The next thing is to get a brain dump. Now, there's a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, where she talks about morning pages. She recommends to write 3 pages of a stream of consciousness. That means anything that goes on in your mind, in your heart, just write it down, get it on paper, pen to paper, not typing, pen to paper, and write down whatever is going on in your mind. This doesn't have to be organized. It doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to be polite. Nobody is going to read it. This is just for you to get a brain dump. 1 to 3 pages. It's sufficient. And it's also going to be great to see the patterns of thinking and feeling, because it's going to help you gain greater self-awareness. But it's one of the best tools that I've learned. Now, once you've done that, the next thing is to start working on something that is going to move the needle in your business, and choose whatever is the path of least resistance. Now, I always like to say the path of least resistance is not the path of no resistance. There's still going to be resistance, but it's the least amount of resistance. You definitely don't want to spend this time working on putting out fires or maintenance work like emails, like responding to social media notifications, tending to other people's needs. Instead, it's creating. So, what do you want to create? Maybe it's content, maybe it's offers, maybe it's marketing materials, something that whatever you feel is going to move the needle. And there's usually more than one thing that moves the needle in your business. And that is the path of least resistance for you. That's an easier yes for you to tackle. And the key here is to show up and let go of the outcome. That means you set a timer for 90 minutes and you say, for 90 minutes, I'm going to be focused, uninterrupted. I'm going to work on this and I'm going to let go of what comes out of it. It's not your responsibility to create something good. It's not your responsibility to even finish the task. Your responsibility is to show up in those 90 minutes and do the work. So 30 minutes for yourself to create some silence, meditate, journal, write, whatever it is that brings you to a place of peace, a place of remembering who you are, a place of remembering that you are safe no matter what happens, a place of knowing that things are going to get better. I promise you, no matter how chaotic it feels right now, this is the nature of life. Nothing lasts forever. Everything is transient. Even if you've received some really difficult news, even if I'm going to use an extreme example, even if you've been told you have a terminal illness, there's still part of you that knows that you are safe beyond that. So you want to get to that place. You want to get to a place of reconnecting to the part of you that knows you are safe, that knows you are okay no matter what, that you're going to be okay. And once you've done that for 30 minutes and you've gotten to a place of peace, of inner peace, then you start working on something that's going to move the needle, and you do the best that you can for 90 minutes and you let go of the outcome. 90 minutes is long enough that you can get in a state of flow, but not so long that you burn yourself out. That's the idea. And all in all, this is just 2 hours. And you might think, well, I don't have any time. I don't have 2 hours in my day. Even if you just had a baby, even if your schedule is a mess, even if you're going through a lot, everybody can create 2 hours. That means taking time away from other things so that you can create those 2 hours in the morning is my recommendation. Wake up earlier before everybody else, before you tend to anybody, before you tend to your kids, before you tend to your responsibilities, before all of that, you take care of yourself first. If 30 minutes feels like a stretch right now, start with even 10 minutes. Please don't just wake up and dive into responsibilities and obligations and putting out fires. Take a moment for yourself to get to a place of inner peace. Everything you do from this place is going to be so much better. You may think I could use that time to do more work, but actually, if you take that time for yourself, the work that you do later is going to be so much more potent. Because it's not an issue of not having enough time. It's an issue of not knowing what to do with the time we already have. It's an issue of not knowing how to manage our energy with the time that we have. If you learn how to do your best work with those 90 minutes that I talked about in the future, when you have more time, when you have more space, you'll know what to do with more time. But otherwise, you can have all the time in the world, but you wouldn't know how to regulate your system. You wouldn't know how to regulate yourself and how to manage yourself internally so that you can create the best that you can create from the place that you're in right now, from wherever you are, and letting go of the outcome. Because the outcome is really none of your business. You don't control the outcome. Like, for example, when it comes to creating content, and I sit down to create content, I love creating content, by the way. I love, after I've created it, I feel a lot better. But the act of thinking about what am I going to talk about? How am I going to translate what's happening here to something that is cohesive and it's going to make sense to the other person? How am I going to present it? That's work. And that's always going to come with resistance, with some resistance. But it's less resistance for me than doing something like, I don't know, cold DMing people on the internet, and asking them to work with me. So I choose to do this rather than that. You get the idea? So do something that's going to move the needle, even if today it doesn't look like much. But with time, I promise you, with time, this is going to build a successful business. This small act of consistently showing up and doing the best that you can with the time that you have, with the energy that you have, eventually, someday you're going to look back and you're going to be like, wow, all of these things actually added up to something. And in the moment, it doesn't feel that way. It feels pointless and meaningless, maybe, but over time, you're going to see a difference. You're going to start gaining some momentum. And the other thing I would say is And this is a little bit extra. So maybe you can squeeze this in the 30 minutes in the morning, or you can do it later on in the day. But I would challenge you to find even 10 minutes to do something creative that doesn't relate to your business at all. Maybe it's drawing, painting, or drawing figure sticks. I don't care, playing with clay. If you have an instrument, and even if you don't know how to play the instrument, just pick it up and do something silly with it. Do something that doesn't translate to money, that doesn't translate to business. Don't even try to create something good, just create. The act of doing that is an act of rebellion against the system that has brainwashed you and groomed you to think that you exist to create things that fit in an economic machine. You don't exist to make money. You don't exist to be productive. You don't exist to achieve. You exist to exist, period. And so this act of doing something with no purpose, just because it brings you joy, just because it makes you feel alive, just doing this is going to create that thread or remind you of that thread, of that connection to yourself. This, as well as, like I said, spending time with yourself in the morning in silence, meditating, going out for walks, spending time in nature, writing, journaling, whatever, those things that may seem silly, they actually make your business better. They make your output better and your creativity better later on. Trust me, just try it for some time and you will see the difference. So if you just take care of your baseline, that is taking care of your health, your well-being, taking care of yourself, being a self-sufficient organism, and taking care of your life, taking care of your business. I'm not asking you to put everything else on hold. You are still going to tend to your responsibilities, but making the time to take care of yourself and making the time to show up and do the best that you can for just 90 minutes a day, doing those things consistently, is going to keep you connected to yourself, is going to keep you connected to your higher self, and is going to help you produce the best that you can. If you found this helpful, I'd love to hear from you. What are you going through right now that I can support you with? I would love to share with you from my experience, from my clients' experience. You can put it in the comments wherever you're watching this. And I'll also put a link to my newsletters. I don't send a lot of emails, but I try to send only when I have something that I feel is useful and helpful. So put your email. I will send you whenever I have a newsletter. And also, it's how I like to stay in touch with people whenever I have free classes, free workshops, events, things like that, where I like to have more one-on-one conversations. So if you found this helpful, you can subscribe there, and I'd love to see you next time. Take care.